I've seen a lot of environmental damage in the last 50 years, from wood chipping of our native forests to oil spills in Sydney Harbour, massive land clearing in the rural areas, and the growing threat of global warming. There have also been some great wins for environment protection, but after 50 years, we aren't there yet. Is there any hope for the future? We asked the campaigners that you've seen in previous episodes, what are their hopes and fears?
Look, I'm very hopeful for the future of the environment. I think that we are just entering a phase of large-scale restoration. We're still seeing some extinctions we have in the last few decades, but the tide of extinctions is starting to recede, and we are starting to see signs of hope for the environment as a whole. I think the potential is there now to do much, much better on biodiversity and climate. Times have changed and people are in favour of biodiversity conservation now, and I think 50 years from now we'll be in a world where we really are custodians of this growing, competent nature.
With regards to environmental impacts, potentially we might need a 235-year recovery plan for country. We're never going to get back to pre-1788, never. But how are we going to get back to where the next generation is able to swim in rivers now? You know, elders don't have to take bottled water to the river. They can drink the river water. You know, we have to get back and listen to country.
Murray Hogarth sees hope in technology.
There's a lot to feel hopeless about, but that's a pretty useless emotion. Now where I'm, working with a clean technology company doing energy solutions, I've taken to calling myself an eco-techno-optimist.
Independent MP Zali Steggall sees the wheels of politics turning for the better.
I believe very much that the shift in Australian politics is here to stay. I think we are on the curve of disruption. It's hard to say where we are on the curve, but I do believe it is an accelerating curve. That's not to say progress is not linear. You're not always going to have each election a certain percentage of change or growth of members. The disruption to the status quo of Australian politics has well and truly commenced, and I think it will continue.
We're better equipped now through the political process to see the kind of good outcomes we need to see.
Environmental lawyer Seren Lone reflects on hope as the motivator.
I am worried. We are facing a climate crisis. We're facing a biodiversity crisis. We need to think about what kind of world we leave for our children and our grandchildren. We have to have hope, because if we don't have hope, how do we get up every day and do this work? I wouldn't talk about these issues as if they had solutions if I didn't have that optimism.
Pessimism of the intellect, but optimism of the spirit. What's the alternative?
Fighting for a green future is, of course, personal. We are invested in our desire for a sustainable and safe future. Eco-grief is a real thing. How do you keep going?
Do you have children? You just keep on going, I guess. What else do you do? So, if you're not in the game, then you know what's going to happen. If you're in the game, it could change.
I have to feel optimistic for the future. If you're feeling pessimistic, you're suffering from eco-grief and the pressure's too much, then be positive, be optimistic and take action.
Whatever we're doing, we're not doing enough to cut through and relieve some of the angst with real and meaningful action that they can actually believe in. I think they look at the older generations, the baby boomer parents, and they don't see a lot of cause for hope in that at all.
We need that action to be occurring now, and we need that to be reflected in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, in protection of environmental areas, in the reduction of additional stresses like plastic pollution. We simply can't afford to allow political cycles to kind of go back and forth on these sorts of things when the impacts are already evident in Australia. For example, the 2019-2020 bushfires, followed by the subsequent floods. And I don't think it's an issue of people not caring about it or not being invested in the long term. I think that the issue is that the effects are manifesting now and people want to see that action now.
So I'd say to young people, take heart
Get involved.
and get out there and do things now,
Your vote and your voice matters.
because 10 years from now, it might be too late. We may have lost a lot.
They do give me hope. They really do. Not only are they voting for Greens in big numbers, which is great. We have seen them leading protest movements around the world. They're the future.
It's not good enough to say, oh, it's politics, I don't really understand it, it's something over there, it doesn't really involve me. It does. I often say to young people, in particular young women, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, because decisions are being made that will impact your life, your future, your opportunities. And if you're not willing to take a step to be at the table of those decisions, or at least have someone representing you at that table, you are going to be stuck with decisions that you're not going to like.
Some would argue that working with our current political and economic system can only go so far. But is there something deeper we should strive for?
You have to stay positive in order to affect change, in order to educate people on the beauty of the world and why humans fit so neatly into a space in the environment, how the environment affects us and how we affect the environment. And for me, it's all about that education, curiosity, wonder, getting people out there, and that's what gives me hope. Seeing people experience the natural world around them and loving it and being interested by it really shows me that we can affect change and that we need to if we want to have a healthy population for the future.
You see, as long as we think of the environment, it sounds like it's over there, and if I'm a good person, I might do something about it. The nature out there and the nature in here are one and the same and are continuous if we understand that not as an intellectual proposition but as an expansion of identity, and we feel that the earth is my body. I exchange gases every moment with the green world, and that this is who I am in a much more fundamental sense than my name, rank, serial number, religion, education, and all of these kind of things. That if that were understood, then I don't think that the destruction has reached a point of no return. I think there's a good chance that we could succeed.
I would see a future Australia that is a connected Australia to its environment, that respects its environment, and obviously science itself also respects Indigenous knowledge as an equal, not as a lesser. That's a big cultural shift in the way science is done these days, and I think that future would be a better place if Indigenous knowledge was at the core and our values were at the core of the way we valued the landscape. At the moment, it's a commodity. It's for the dollar, and Indigenous people are in the environment and they're not going anywhere. A future that shifts that thinking and changes attitudes will be in a better place in the future.
Undoubtedly, if we stop our journey, things will get worse. How do we arrive at our green future? We've got to keep campaigning to protect what's left. We need to massively regenerate nature. We need a cultural change where we recognise that nature is also us. And we need to change our social, economic and political institutions to reflect that knowledge. The fight for a green future will continue.